Hi, Catalina here. This is going to be a short video around tips to prepare for repayment. I know there's various talks. Is pause going to continue? Is it not going to continue? Are we going to get forgiveness? Are we going to get 0% interest instead? All these various things. What I wanted to address are 3 tips to prepare for repayment, because even if repayment doesn't happen this month, which there's been no official announcement yet, maybe by the time this video is published there will be, but then we need to prepare to get into repayment, because think tanks are projecting that 4 out of 10 borrowers, 4 out of 10 is 40%, will go into late payments or forbearance, delinquency. Just not a good situation. Obviously, if you go into forbearance, it's not as bad as going into delinquency or default, right? So because in light of this statistic of 40% or 4 out of 10, I just wanted to give tips to help borrowers prepare for repayment. Tip number 1, start saving now. Save a little bit of money, even if it's 1 or 2 payments once we get kicked into repayment, right? Just save a few payments, because with inflation, gas prices, grocery prices rising, and all the various issues we're having from a macroeconomic standpoint, it never hurts to just have a little bit of a cushion, right? To save. And of course, it's not just to say save for your student loan. It's to say save for a rainy day, which is recommended 3 to 6 months of emergency savings of all your expenses for 3 to 6 months. But I would say, in addition to us just not being used to paying for the last 30 months, also save for a few months of student loan payments as well, right? So tip number 1 is start saving now, even if that means, you save out of your specific paycheck, or you transfer a little bit of money every week from your checking to your savings account. Whatever method that works best for you, try to be methodical about the savings over the next couple months, and that should help ease the burden and the pain of having to repay again. Second tip is find out if your student loan servicer will be transferred. So, for example, servicers that are coming to the end of their contract include Fed Loan, Granite State, Navient. And so if your servicer is coming to the end of their contract with the federal government, then you will be transferring servicers, which means that you will be getting an update on what portal to log on to and with whom you need to officially communicate. So tip number 2 is to not just understand who your servicer is, but understand what your plan is once you go into repayment. If you've experienced unemployment, a decrease in income, or a financial hardship of some kind, and you need to enroll into we would recommend going into an income-driven plan. Of course, there's various other options through your servicer, including asking for an extended forbearance, or basically asking for extended forbearance, which we don't generally recommend, because when you ask for forbearance, you do not get credit for loan forgiveness. We recommend asking for an income-driven repayment plan, because that does give you credit for loan forgiveness, okay? So tip number 2 is not just understanding who your servicer is, but understanding your plan for repayment, and specifically enrolling that paperwork ahead of when repayment starts. So right now we know repayment starts August 31st. Well, don't wait until August 30th to file your IDR, because it will be very painful and the line will be really long, and you will not get your income-driven repayment amount ahead of the first month of payment. If you know you're experiencing financial hardship or want a reduced payment, number 1, you can get that calculation on what that repayment amount would be on myloansense.com. You click sign up, app.myloansense.com. We will give you the projected payment amount, the best plan for free. If you want to continue our service, obviously we'd have expert enrollment, answer questions, help you manage your paperwork, and help you throughout the year. Hugely high value. We are like your friend, right, in your pocket here. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because simply do not wait until the last week of August to address this. I would address it as soon as possible. Like, you know, you're going to have a hard time paying, you know, in about 45 days, start enrolling into that process now. Figure out who your servicer is going to be. Do you need to enroll it to your current servicer, save your paperwork, keep documentation for the servicer transfer? What do you need to do? So that's tip number 2. That actually is kind of tip number 2 and 3, right? Like, make sure your servicer isn't transferring, and then understand what you're going to have to do for repayment. Again, I would not recommend going into extended forbearance because you can't get credit towards any form of loan forgiveness in those programs. If you find this content helpful, please do not hesitate to like our channel, to subscribe, and to share it with others who may be helped with this information. I wanted to talk very briefly about how going into these programs impact people for a mortgage, because we have a lot of people that come to us who want to buy a home. First and foremost, we're getting kicked back into repayment. So that means whatever your payment amount will be on the income-driven repayment plan will be what your lender will count towards the debt-to-income ratio, which clearly, obviously, we want it to be lower than your current payment, especially if you can't afford your current payment. So that's our little tip and advice. If repayment gets gets extended, then we can certainly help anybody that works with us continue to put their payment in pause. So we hope those are some helpful tips for both consumers and lenders who work with borrowers with student debt to understand the advice and the tips for how to prepare for repayment. Let us know what your questions, comments are so we can produce content that directly answers your questions. Have a good rest of the week.